We're going to kick things off into overdrive and hit the road running with this Grassy Seed Galarian Zapdos team. Welcome back, YouTube. Espresso Shucko here, and today we are going to hit the Regulation F ranked ladder with this team, consisting of Galarian Zapdos, Rillaboom, Ursaluna, Farigiraf, Magmar, and Ogerpon. I built this team a little while ago, but I kind of got distracted with a few other things. I built this around the same time as the Meganium and Colossal team, but then we ended up putting Feraligatr, and then at that point I couldn't just not do Typhlosion, and then I kind of got surprised myself with the Screamtail Iron Hands team, but we are finally sitting down to film the Galarian Zapdos team. I really like this bird. It has some of the goofiest animations here with its tiny little wings compared to the standard Zapdos. But anyways, what we're going to do here is we're going to use the Grassy Seed on Zapdos and Rillaboom's Grassy Surge to set the grassy terrain, give Zapdos a free +1 into its defense, and then we're going to go for a Terra Flying boosted acrobatics and bonus points if we run into an Incineroar and get a free +1 into our attack stat. On that note though, if we don't, well, we do have the Thunderous Kick, which is Zapdos' signature attack, which is a base 90 power fighting type attack that is guaranteed to lower the target's defense 1 stage, which means if we don't get that free +1 off of the Incineroar's Intimidate, well, we can soften some things up with the Thunderous Kick and then just annihilate them with acrobatics. We have an Assault Vested Rillaboom with Terra Fire to help deal with opposing Rillabooms and Incineroars with some Fake Out pressure. We have Grassy Glide to hit things hard with the grassy terrain active. We have Knockoff to remove some items, and then we have High Horsepower to deal some super effective damage to things such as Raging Bolt, Incineroar, anything that's called a fire type, and so on. We have Ursaluna Blood Moon here with Hyper Voice, Blood Moon, and Earth Power with a Life Orb to do as much damage as we can in Trick Room or out of Trick Room as possible. We have Farigiraf here with a Throat Spray to boost up its special attack after we go for a Hyper Voice or Psychic Noise. We have Terra Fairy here to click Dazzling Gleam and gain stab with if we do decide to use Farigiraf in more of an offensive role than just a straight up Trick Room setter. So we do have that at our disposal. We have Magmar here for some redirection support with Follow Me. We have Acid Spray on this thing to soften up some things for both Farigiraf and Ursaluna by lowering their special defense 2 stages per use of Acid Spray. And then we have some generic damage coverage with Flamethrower just to hit things. And then finally we have Ogerpon. We have Terra Water, Ivy Cudgel at our disposal to just bop things. We have Horn Leech to recover some HP. We have Spiky Shield, and we have Follow Me. I swear at some point I'm going to use the other Ogerpon forms, but I just really like the Wellspring form. But anyways, that's enough of the rambling. Let's jump on in to some battles and see what we can find. All right, we have an opposing Feraligatr. Ooh, there's a Clefairy. They have Incineroar, Rillaboom, as I mentioned, Clefairy, Fluttermane, and Farigiraf. All right, so I really want to bring the Zapdos, but I don't know how I feel about that just yet. That said, if they bring in Rillaboom as part of their lead or Incineroar, that's really nice for Zapdos because I can either get a +1 attack or a +1 defense out of it. Ogerpon might not be the worst thing imaginable. I kind of like the idea of bringing Magmar too. Ursaluna could be really nice. Farigiraf could be nice. Ogerpon, depending on what... I want to know what that Terra on their Feraligatr is, because if it's Terra Water, that's great for Horn Leech. I think we have to bring Rillaboom in the back, though, so that I can at least get my grassy terrain. And then I think we bring the Ursaluna in the back. A Tailwind-backed Ursaluna might not be the worst thing imaginable. It would still be slower than Fluttermane, but that said, having Tailwind back it up wouldn't be the worst thing, especially since it does have that spread option to get around Clefairy's. It gets you around Clefairy's Follow Me. So I do get my Grassy Seed off. That's nice. I could get faked out here, though, which I don't want to have happen. So let's see. I'm not opposed to trying to go for the Follow Me with Ogerpon and trying to get rid of the Rillaboom. I could also go with the Detect. I think I go Detect with you. Actually, let's Acrobatics the Rillaboom and let's go for the Follow Me. Okay, so that's good to know that Follow Me goes after Fake Out. Well, Zapdos looks a little silly right about now. Zapdos can't move, but anyways, there's the Trick Room. Alright, so it's not bad for Ursaluna by any means. So I don't hate it per se. So maybe what I can do here is I go for the Follow Me and the Acrobatics into Rillaboom like I tried last turn. Or I Spiky Shield with the Ogerpon. How needed is Zapdos right now? Honest question. If they want to just go Dazzling Gleam and set up a... Well, if they have a Throat Spray and they want to set up, they have to go for Hyper Voice first. So Dazzling Gleam wouldn't do as much damage. Ogerpon's going to take that no problem because with the Spiky Shield. Zapdos actually took that no problem either. And Ogerpon's going to take the Wood Hammer. Alright. Okay. We're going to get the Acrobatics off in the Rillaboom, so that was not terrible. That was by no means terrible. Also, that animation was a little questionable, but at least that playout was not terrible. Fluttermane's coming out in the Trick Room. Okay. We're going to hit that thing with the Cudgel. Yeah, we're going to hit it with the Cudgel while the Trick Room is up. We're going to Detect with Zapdos now. And we have 3 turns of Trick Room left, so here's the other thing, though. The Fluttermane could potentially go for the Protect. So I might not get a KO here. And if I don't, am I okay with that? We'll go for Detect with Zapdos here. They did go for the Protect, so I think what I'm going to do next turn is I'm just going to straight up hard switch Zapdos out. I'll take a little bit of damage with the Ogerpon here, but that Fluttermane is now wide open. They get their Throat Spray off, so I think I can bring in Rillaboom here. I think I can bring in Rillaboom and try to get rid of the Fluttermane with the Ivy Cudgel and go from there. We have 2 turns of Trick Room left, which means we have 2 turns of Trick Room for that Farigiraf to be outspeeding us and for Ogerpon to be outspeeding the Fluttermane. How many turns of Grassy Terrain do we have left? 2. Okay. So there's no priority allowed right now because of the Armor Tail. So I'm going to get rid of the... I'm going to attempt to get rid of the Fluttermane. If I eat this +1 special attack coming from Farigiraf, Ogerpon's not going to like that too much. But I do have high horsepower and knockoff. We haven't seen the Terra off my opponent just yet. Also, I don't know why I was too concerned for Ogerpon right there, because that still did not do much. Fluttermane is gone, so when Trick Room expires, at least we have some raw damage output for Rillaboom. Ogerpon might be a good candidate to Terra. Yeah, Ogerpon might be a good option to go for the Terra here. I want to knock off into the Farigiraf, and I kind of want to Ivy Cudgel, but at the same time, I don't know what that Feraligatr wants to do. That Feraligatr is a wild card. My opponent's finally going to bust out the Terra. So it's going to be Feraligatr. Terra Poison, okay. I'm okay with that, because I do have the high horsepower in the back on Rillaboom. Helping Hand, alright. So, is this a Rock Slide coming my way? I don't know, but I do at least get the knockoff into the, No, it's Ice Punch, okay. I'm fine with that. Zapdos can come in here. Ogerpon was slower than the Feraligatr in the Trick Room, which means Ogerpon's going to be faster than it out of the Trick Room. So, Ursaluna might not be bad, because we can click the Hyper Voice. And Ogerpon going for a Terra Water Ivy Cudgel could be nice here too. So, Ogerpon and Rillaboom went on either side of the... So 169, 107. So the Feraligatr is somewhere between 169 and 107. Ursaluna's probably taken a hit, though. Or what I could do is I could Terra Normal Hyper Voice and go for the Cudgel that way. We haven't seen a Protect off of Farigiraf yet. So Ursaluna might be alright. Now, the Dazzling Gleam and the Hyper Voice into my Ogerpon hasn't been doing that much into it, so I'm kind of hopeful that my Ursaluna can handle this. So, we'll go for the Ivy Cudgel into Feraligatr. That's a whopping amount of damage. We're going to eat the Ice Punch, no problems there, and we get the Hyper Voice, so bada bing, bada boom, goodbye. So, no more Farigiraf and no more Feraligatr. So, you love to see that. Unless you're watching my Feraligatr video, then you hate to see that. But anyways, that thing did a tremendous amount of damage with that Helping Hand boosted Ice Punch, even into my just neutral matchup with the Terra Normal. So, Feraligatr does have a good amount of firepower at the end of the day when you look at it. Anyways, good game to my opponent. Okay, my opponent here has Fluttermane, Ogerpon, Farigiraf, Urshifu, Ursaluna, and Incineroar. So we have a lot of overlap with the Ogerpon and the Farigiraf and the Ursaluna. Half the team overlaps, so this should be a little bit interesting to see how we can make out with it. So we can bring in Rillaboom if we wanted to. We have the option to bring Zapdos, so then that way we can always switch in Farigiraf to deny a Fake Out if we're worried of it. If they bring in Farigiraf, we can try to double into them with the Thunderous Kick and a knockoff, especially if they don't Terra. Urshifu is going to be a little bit concerning for me, but I'm not too worried about it. I don't mind the idea of bringing Magmar per se too, because I can always pump the Terra Grass and become resistant to Ogerpon's Ivy Cudgel, and if that's a Rapid Strike Urshifu, then I can also have Magmar potentially burn it with its Flame Body. So that might be tempting here. I think we do bring Farigiraf, and I think Ursaluna's raw power might be what we need. I think Magmar is going to stay home for this one. Magmar is going to sit here on the bench, and we'll go from there. So let's see how this plays out, and let's test out the Zapdos. I want to see if I can get off Thunderous Kick into Incineroar, especially if I can get a +1 Thunderous Kick. So it's Farigiraf and Incineroar. That is wonderful. I definitely like to see that. I'm going to get my Grassy Terrain, so my Seed is going to go off. I have the Acrobatics at full power. I can bring in Farigiraf. I don't have to worry about the Incineroar, just dealing with that, because I now get my +1 attack. This is just nice. I can bring in Farigiraf. I can Terra Flying and go for the acrobatics into their Farigiraf if I want. And honestly, I think that's what I'm going to do here. So I really do not want to see Trick Room go off. So we're going to just try to nail their Farigiraf, get it off the field. And if we do get it off the field, great. Zapdos can always click Tailwind, and then we can just go for the speed dynamic between my Farigiraf and their team. And just try to just wail on them and do as much damage as fast as possible. So the question is will they be bulky enough to live this, and what their item is. If they go for raw damage, that could be a little bit bad for me too, but I would love to deny this Trick Room. So we're going to get that fake out denied. We're going to get the +1 Terraflying boosted acrobatics. Farigiraf does hold on. It's also Rocky Helmet, so that's a little concerning, but they went for damage. Nice. Okay. So what we can do here is we can go for the Hyper Voice, and we're going to go for the Thunderous Kick into their Incineroar. So I definitely want to get rid of that thing, and if my Farigiraf is faster than theirs, Hyper Voice should be more than enough to KO it at this range. So we're going to get the Thunderous Kick off into Incineroar. This is going to be huge. We saw the Citrus Berry on the Farigiraf. No, we didn't. That's a clean KO. Nice. All right. So where do we stand in terms of... Nice. Okay, we're also going to get the hit. So that's half their team just gone right there. There's their Trick Room setter just denied. And I get my Throat Spray off, which is going to be very handy, especially if the Ursaluna did come in the back. Now, if it didn't, it is what it is. But there's the Ursaluna. Great. And who's coming out? It's Fluttermane. All right, so I really like the idea of going for a Psychic Noise into their Ursaluna. And I really like, or not the yeah, I meant the Ursaluna. I clicked the Fluttermane. We're going to go for the Psychic Noise right into their Ursaluna. And I think what we're going to do here is we're actually going to go for the Detect. With my main reason being Fluttermane is faster than Zapdos. I would love to get a little bit of chip off into them. It's the Ursaluna that's going for the Terra as well. So I was kind of hoping that Fluttermane would have Terra'd into a non-ghost type so I could have faked it out next turn, but that's fine. We're going to get our Detect off. If they went Blood Moon, great. And they also went Icy Wind, so that is a little bit concerning for the Zapdos. But if we get a little bit chip into Ursaluna, great. Here comes the Hyper Voice. Farigiraf is going to take this. So let's see. We do survive. That said, they do have me in KO range pretty much for next turn, so might have been best to try to get rid of that thing, but that's great damage with the Psychic Voice. Or Psychic Noise, not Psychic Voice. That'll be a Gen 10 move right there, a Psychic Voice. But anyways. We're going to click the Dazzling Gleam, and we're going to... I don't think they leave Zapdos alone. I think they go Icy Wind, Hyper Voice again. But on the off chance that they don't, I'm going to click the Thunderous Kick into the Ursaluna. So that's actually enough to get rid of Zapdos. So Rillaboom is going to come in here. Rillaboom will be nice for trying to deal with the Fluttermane. And we do have the Ogerpon as well. So we could potentially Spiky Shield. So, given their range for Ursaluna, they're at half. I don't know if Rillaboom is going to be able to take it out. And also, it's not the Ogerpon. It's actually our own Ursaluna. So, I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to try to have to go for the Fake Out into their Ursaluna and Hyper Voice myself. And just try to get that damage off. So we'll click the Fake Out into the Ursaluna, and we'll go for the Hyper Voice. If this is a Focus Sash Fluttermane, that's going to be nice because we'll break the Sash, my Rillaboom can go into that. And then that way, we'll be able to get rid of the Flutter Mane at the end of the day. And the Assault Vest is going to help Rillaboom deal with Flutter Mane. So, here comes the Icy Wind. Neither of those are going to appreciate it, but we're going to get a little bit of HP back. So, what we could do is we click the Grassy Glide into the Flutter Mane, and we click the Protect. If my Ursaluna, or not my Ursaluna, if my Rillaboom survives, then we can try to get rid of their Ursaluna. So, oh, that's poor timing. Oh, that is really poor timing. All right. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to go for the high horsepower into their Flutter Mane. And we're going to try the Hyper Voice. Yeah. Here comes the Icy Wind. I'm starting to think that might be Specs. Or they just really, really want that speed control here. The Blood Moon. Alright. And I think this is Rillaboom. Yeah, okay. So this might not be over. This might not be over because we clicked the Hyper Voice. Oh, the Flutter Mane held on. Oh. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks here. If they're locked into Icy Wind, I could potentially miss it though. I'm gonna hit Protect. I'm gonna scout to see. We're gonna see what this last move is, because if it's anything but Icy Wind, we know it's not Specs. All right, so I think they're locked into it. I really do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try the Hyper Voice, but I think they're gonna get me. Yeah, they catch me right there, unfortunately. But oh, what a close game, man. Okay. I did have the potential to dodge that Icy Wind, but I just didn't. But there was a lot of back and forth. I'm really happy with how Zapdos played out there. And it was really unfortunate that the grassy terrain ended when it did. But all I have to say about that is good game to my opponent. That was really well played. All right, my opponent here has Ting-Lu, Sinistcha, Empoleon, Farigiraf, Incineroar, and Dragonite. So I'm curious about this Ting-Lu. I'm really curious about potentially getting an Incineroar lead into my Zapdos. So I kind of want to bring Rillaboom Zapdos out of the gate so that we get the acrobatics set up immediately. A Thunderous Kick into Empoleon could be nice. Could be really nice into Ting-Lu as well. I think we'll bring the Ursaluna in the back. And do I want to bring Magmar or Ogerpon potentially? Or do I want Farigiraf? I feel like I want it, and then that way I have a means of shutting off Fake Out from the Incineroar, as well as a means of it shutting down Extreme Speed. Because that could be a big problem for Zapdos, especially as Zapdos does get the Tailwind off, is getting outsped by the Extreme Speed. And Fake Out is definitely not fun either. So let's see how we go from that. Empoleon Sinistcha is the lead, so my opponent might be going for a Trick Room setup with the Sinistcha, and potentially getting burned by Matcha Gotcha could be really bad. So I might have to go for the acrobatics into the Sinistcha, and I might have to try faking out the Empoleon. They could always switch in the Farigiraf, which could be really bad. But okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to Thunderous Kick into the Empoleon, and we're going to knock off into the Sinistcha slot. We're not going to go for the Fake Out. They go for Protect. That's fine. So we'll miss the Thunderous Kick. That's fine. We'll go for the knockoff. This will remove whatever item the Sinistcha has, so if it's Citrus Berry, great. Mental Herb, okay. And they just went straight Matcha Gotcha. Zapdos avoided it, that's nice. We can go for the Thunderous Kick if we want. We can always pop our Terra Fire to try to keep Rillaboom safe. High Horsepower into Empoleon looks really tempting. Thunderous Kick looks really tempting too, if I'm being completely honest. But we're going to click the Acrobatics, and I think we're going to High Horsepower that Empoleon. The fact that they had Mental Herb definitely screams they have Trick Room on the Sinistcha. Now, who am I seeing the Terra for? It's Empoleon, alright. Terra Dragon. So they did see that I wanted to Thunderous Kick this thing, but I just realized something too. That thing's got competitive as its ability. Thunderous Kick is a guaranteed defense drop. I don't want to give them that setup. So we'll get rid of Sinistcha. They burned their Terra on the Empoleon, so that's not the worst thing imaginable. Can we connect this, please, Rillaboom? Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to eat an Ice Beam, unfortunately. That doesn't take me out, though. It's a Life Orb Empoleon, so depending on what comes in next, that might depend on what I do with Zapdos. It's Dragonite. I kind of want to Tailwind and switch in Farigiraf, but at the same time, I kind of want to get Trick Room up. Yeah, okay. We're going to go for the Acrobatics into Empoleon. We're going to switch in Farigiraf. And then that way, if they do go for the Extreme Speed, we're going to deny it. That Empoleon packed a really good punch with the... okay, they're just going to go Protect again. Alright, so there's the Extreme Speed, so we're denying that with the Armor Tail. I really do want to get rid of that thing and set the Trick Room, and then that way Ursaluna can go from there. So we're going to click the Acrobatics into you. We're going to Trick Room. And then Ursaluna and Rillaboom can come in here, and we can go for the Terra Normal Hyper Voice if we need it. They're going to withdraw Dragonite. Great. Is it their own Farigiraf? No, it's Tinglu. Okay. Okay. You're going to be scary in Trick Room. And that was not enough to KO. Alright, so I can Hyper Voice the Tinglu. Yeah, I can Hyper Voice the Tinglu, and if we get the Throat Spray off, that should balance out so that we're neutral against Tinglu here with the Vessel of Ruin working against us. So we're going to click the Blood Moon into Tinglu right out of the gate, and we're going to Hyper Voice. We'll try to get rid of the Empoleon, and then that way, if we can... So, if we get rid of Empoleon, that'll boil it down to Dragonite and Tinglu. That is going to be a lot of work for Rillaboom at the end of the day, because the Dragonite is going to have the Inner Focus. It's going to be 4 times resistant to Grassy Glide. Oh, that's adorable. There's a Fissure. Glad I'm going after you with this. That wasn't even enough for half. Okay. Here's a Hydro Pump coming my way. That's gross. At least you're going down. So you go down to your own Life Orb, which means this is going to become a single target Hyper Voice into Tinglu. We can get our Throat Spray off, get a little bit of extra damage, and we can go from there. Ursaluna is going to have to go for a Hyper Voice. Farigiraf can go for the Dazzling Gleam, and then that way we can just try to get rid of the Tinglu with the Hyper Voice. If we want to leave it to the end, though, we could always bring in Rillaboom and go for a Grassy Glide into this thing. We haven't seen its item yet. At least I don't think we have. We might have. 3 turns of Trick Room, which means 3 turns of this thing being able to potentially outspeed me. Alright, so there's the Stomping Tantrum into Ursaluna. Oh, that was a KO. Okay, so Protect might have been good there. But we get the Dazzling Gleam off into the Dragonite slot. Here comes an Outrage, leaving me with 4 HP. Okay. So, what do I think is going to do more damage to Dragonite? Do I think it's going to be a Dazzling Gleam, or do I think it's going to be a... I think it's going to be the Dazzling Gleam, and honestly, if we can get rid of Tinglu with the Grassy Glide here, that'll undo the Vessel of Ruin. We might pick up Dragonite here. I'm also kind of hoping this Outrage goes into the Rillaboom slot so that Farigiraf just doesn't go down to it, but never mind, we pick up the KO. So, we definitely got rid of Tinglu, that was good. Tinglu had definitely a very good dampening effect. I'm also very glad that Fissure missed, because Fissure could have just set the tone of the game in a completely different setup. But anyways, that worked out, that we picked up the win. Good game to my opponent. Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out this Grassy Seed Galarian Zapdos taking on the ranked ladder. We had 3 really good games at the end of the day. It's a shame that we did go 2-1, but I think these games were overall incredibly solid and definitely worth showing off. In game 1 here, we did have the nice fortunate advantage of my opponent leading Rillaboom and Farigiraf into my Galarian Zapdos and Ogerpon because they brought the grassy terrain for my Grassy Seed. Now, aside from the little blunder of me clicking follow me and getting faked out in the same turn, it worked out pretty good at the end of the day. My opponent was incredibly generous and brought Trick Room for me, which meant we were able to just flip that speed dynamic on the Fluttermane after Zapdos removed the Rillaboom with the Acrobatics. We got rid of the Fluttermane with the Ivy Cudgel, leaving it down to the Feraligatr and Farigiraf by the end of Trick Room. And honestly, that Farigiraf wasn't doing that much damage at the end of the day, which was relatively fortunate for Ogerpon, who was just eating up hits left, right, and center. And as my opponent got down to that Feraligatr and Farigiraf and Trick Room expired, we were able to bring in Ursaluna. We clicked the Terra Normal with it to avoid taking the super effective damage from Ice Punch or a potential liquidation. And then after Ogerpon bonked it with a Ivy Cudgel, Ursaluna finished off not only Feraligatr but Farigiraf as well with that Terra Normal boosted Hyper Voice, which was just really nice. And then game 2, we had a really promising lead of my opponent leading Incineroar and Farigiraf into my Zapdos and Rillaboom. Switching Rillaboom out for the Farigiraf denied the fake out. We had essentially a free bulk up because Intimidate was undone by the Defiant, giving us a +2 attack boost, which then gave Zapdos that +1 at the end of the day. The Grassy Seed gave Zapdos the +1 defense, and we were almost able to just one-shot that Farigiraf with that Terra Flying boosted Acrobatics, which was just really nice. And plus, having Farigiraf pivot in there was able to let Farigiraf set itself up with the Hyper Voice when it finished off their Farigiraf the next turn, and Incineroar got taken down by the Thunderous Kick. Now, unfortunately, the combination of their Icy Wind, Fluttermane, and their Ursaluna was just a little too much for my team to handle, and I'm pretty convinced that it was either a Choice Specs or Choice Scarf that the Fluttermane had locked itself into with the Icy Wind, and it had boiled down to just Ursaluna at the end of the day versus their Fluttermane. Now, what I think I probably should have done instead was gone for the Trick Room instead of the Psychic Noise with Farigiraf and inverted the speed, and because we did take that Icy Wind off of the Fluttermane, that means that Farigiraf might have been able to underspeed the Ursaluna, so it probably could have gotten a little bit of chip damage off into the Fluttermane with a Dazzling Gleam on the off chance that it was Focus Sashed. And then that way, Rillaboom could have came in and potentially finished it off with a Grassy Glide, and it might have made a bit of a better outcome for my own Ursaluna to deal with their Throat Spray, boosted, Terra Normal Ursaluna as well. So having that speed dynamic switch and then play the game of who's going to outspeed who with their Ursaluna versus mine might have been nice at the end of the day, because they were running Icy Wind on Fluttermane next to Ursaluna. That makes me wonder if they had some speed investment in their Ursaluna, which means my Ursaluna might have been able to underspeed theirs and finish them off with a Blood Moon instead. So that could have been what we need to flip that dynamic. And then finally, Terra Dragon and Empoleon definitely threw me for a loop. We were able to get rid of their Sinisha, and we got really lucky that we dodged the Machigacha altogether with Galarian Zapdos, while Rillaboom didn't get burned, because a burn would have ruined our day. They ended up bringing Tinglu in the back, and we did give them Trick Room, which meant dodging that fissure was really important, because they could have gone for as many as they wanted, since Tinglu is just an absolute bulky beast, and it could have just gone for more and more as the battle went on. But going for the fissure and missing, and then going for the Stomping Tantrum and having its power doubled, definitely was enough to just remove my Ursaluna, unfortunately. And we were really lucky that my Blood Moon Ursaluna was able to do as much damage to the Tinglu as it did, so that Rillaboom was able to come in with the Grassy Glide and finish it off, which then would let Dragonite go down to the full power of my +1 Dazzling Gleam off of Farigiraf. Anyways, guys, thank you once again for watching the video. If you want to see the team breakdown, I will have a link to the poképaste in the description below. If you like the team, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I'll see you next time.